So first, monitoring. Project monitoring and performance monitoring involves the tracking and reporting of priority information about a particular project or a portfolio of projects. Typically, the implementing partner is responsible for project monitoring, and USAID is responsible for project and portfolio monitoring across all of our projects. Evaluation, on the other hand, involves the rigorous measurement of project outcomes and impacts, and it's typically done by an independent third-party firm that is not involved in implementing the project that's being evaluated. So monitoring tends to measure things like inputs, such as time, cost, the services provided by a project, the materials used by a project, outputs, and these are products that are directly attributable to the program and its activities, outcomes, which are the results that a project contributes to, but probably isn't solely responsible for. Evaluation, on the other hand, is responsible for measuring a particular characteristic or a dimension of the project outputs and outcomes. That type of evaluation is what USAID calls a performance evaluation. Evaluation can also measure the change in a development outcome that is attributable to a specific project or even a specific activity within a project. And that is what USAID calls an impact evaluation. So for monitoring, we tend to have indicators that provide evidence of what has been or has not been completed by the project. So these are the outputs, and sometimes on the outcomes that a project has achieved. Monitoring indicators are important for adaptive management of our programming to ensure that if output targets are not being reached, managers, whether they're at the implementing partner or USAID, can take course corrections to bring the project back into target performance. Monitoring indicators tend to answer questions related to what the program did. Again, these are sort of outputs and outcomes of the project, and how the program achieved those outputs and outcomes. So what were the inputs and the strategies used to achieve the outputs and outcomes of the project? Evaluation indicators, on the other hand, provide evidence of the development impact of our programming. They allow program designers to evaluate the theory of change that underlies the program being evaluated. And they help us to answer questions related to whether the program achieved the end goals in the world. So did the program result in improved productivity? Did the program result in improved women's empowerment? And also to understand what else besides our programming might be influencing long-term development outcomes in the areas where we work. Maybe the government has a project to promote land tenure and property rights in the same area where we're working, and we want to know whether our approach or the government's approach, either individually or together, is most appropriate for achieving improved tenure security. Impact evaluation helps you understand those questions. I want to spend just a little bit of time talking a bit more about the theory of change, because it's really critical for understanding, in particular, how we design and implement evaluations. So a theory of change, which USAID also uses a framework called the results framework, but we're going to focus here on a theory of change, which is really, it's a diagram that explains how you go from the project's inputs and activities to outputs to outcomes, and finally development outcomes, which we sometimes also call impact of our projects. This theory of change is often based on certain assumptions about how the world works and the ways that particular activities and contextual conditions will lead to the outcomes and development outcomes and impact of our work. Good theories of change are based on sound evidence and theories that are drawn from the best available evidence from the sector and the field. And they should be country and context specific. So whenever you develop your program theory of change, we need to understand not just the process of, for example, certifying land rights and how that process leads to development outcomes, but also what the particulars of the country context are. What are the particular drivers of tenure insecurity in the program area that this project is going to address? And what else besides our project might be influencing tenure security? So again, monitoring is really important for maintaining accountability of program implementation, allowing for adaptive management, and generating data and trends on the way that our projects are being implemented.